then this video is for you. I, as a parent, got a lot of conflicting advice about how I should have my son sleep. Some people, like the American Academy of Pediatrics, says that back to sleep is the safest, best way to do it. I have some people who tell me that from an attachment parenting perspective, co-sleeping is actually the safest, most evidence-based way to make sure a baby's sleeping. You get this conflicting advice as a parent, and it's really tricky to figure out, well, who should be doing what, because that's really what's happening with recommendations. You'll see that sometimes you'll get a recommendation for something that is a blanket recommendation for everybody without a lot of consideration for the individual circumstances that you're in. So in this One Belly Wednesday, what I want to talk about is something that one of my staff members, Megan, brought up. She said that when her kids were born, she felt really in that zone of conflict. She said she didn't know if laying on the back was the right thing, laying on the stomach was the right thing, make sure that there wasn't anything around blankets or toys or anything like that around her babies. And so she kind of presumed that the best way to make sure her kids were sleeping safely was to somehow cast a spell and make them float in midair. And so that inspired this One Belly Wednesday, because I know this is a big question for a lot of new parents. When you have a baby who is healthy and breastfed and co-sleeping, that's a really safe thing for most kids. The one thing that I learned, though, as a chiropractor who works in pediatrics, is that there's some tests that I really have to do with every newborn in order to make sure that those sleeping situations are super safe. The first thing that I do is something that's called the cervical riding test, where basically I turn a baby's head to one side and I want to see if that baby's shoulder can also roll up and away from danger. The reason that's important is because if the brain and the body are communicating well on an automatic basis, it tells me that if there's something in the airway, if for some reason a blanket or something like that is there, the baby has the ability to roll away from danger. So that's the very first thing that I learned in order to feel like I could sleep safer at night, knowing that my son was going to be okay. The second thing that I do is something called the pull to sit test. The pull to sit test is, again, really super simple to do. All you do when your baby is laying down is you hold on to their hands and you pull them up. What you want to see is you want to look at their head. Their head should, in absolutely neurotypical normal newborns, should stay in line with the torso. So it's kind of like they're doing a great big sit-up. Their head goes whoop, up like that. It doesn't do these things. It doesn't tip off to one side. It doesn't lag behind them. If you see that, the chances are that it's not because the baby has a weak neck or underdeveloped muscles. More than likely what's happening is that you've got muscles that are too tight. And if the muscles are too tight, they're the muscles that attach from the back of the head into the collarbone. Those muscles will usually get tight because the brain is telling the neck to tighten those muscles up, generally because of some kind of trauma that happened during the birth. This is one of the most under-recognized things in pediatrics. 40%, according to these studies, really, really big study on newborns, 40% of all babies have some form of kind of bruising on the inside of their brain, whether they're vaginally born or belly births. And so to be able to appreciate that might be a factor with these kids is something that I screen for every time. If they do have that kind of bruising that's on the inside there, and so they have that little bit of a head lag, and their body's already automatically in a state of fight or flight. It tells me that we've got some damage, and so that we need to be really conscious about how those babies are firing and functioning. Obviously, as a chiropractor, we have solutions for being able to help improve the circulation and healing for those kinds of things. I've seen that in my office. I've seen those reflexes come back with the children who are under my care. And so I know that there's a chiropractic solution, but for generally the parents that are out there who want to feel a little bit safer with how their babies are sleeping, it's definitely something to consider. Obviously, there's goods and bads to things like the back to sleep program. We're seeing a lot of children who have something called plagiocephaly. It's a flattening of the back of the head because those babies kind of stay in that container all the time. That's not great for them. You'll also have those babies who get it's flat over kind of towards the side because of that tight muscle there. Nobody checks that and corrects it, and then we end up with this flattening, and that's how those babies end up in my office because they're like, "Yikes, what's going on here? Please help fix it." Pediatricians will refer to something called torticollis. That's talking about the same thing. So those two little screening tools are the things that I learned as a doctor that help me sleep better at night as a parent. If you have parents in your life with newborns, if you're a parent of yourself of a newborn and you want to try some of these things out, or you have questions about how to do these things, hey, send us a comment, send us a message. One Belly Wednesday is all about helping new parents, whether you are pregnant parents or parents of children under 1. And so if that's you, or if you're a doctor who helps them out, or if you are somebody who has friends that just had one of these Corona cuties, I like to call them, they're all starting to get born now, post-pandemic, post-Great Pause, then make sure you share this video with them. We're here to help. So until next